Good, I'd like to be heard. Ken's away on business this evening, so I'll be chairing the meeting, so I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time. I'm going to ask the board for a motion to approve the agenda. Got the move and the support here, and all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, the agenda is approved. The first item on our agenda of significance, and this is really significant, is we're going to recognize Howard Perrin. I'll turn the mic to you.
Thanks, Mark. So tonight we'd like to recognize Howard Perrin with an honorary diploma from Hudsonville High School. I am not going to discuss your age, Howard, although I have not given a diploma to somebody more than the age of 18, so we'll just leave it at that. 90. You look amazing for being 90 years old. I would like to talk a little bit about Howard. He started our athletic boosters back in 1970. I believe that's the year I was born, so that's, Howard, we appreciate you doing that. I know that in 1977, he actually bought our first Eagles mascot, which then was all over the district, traveled with the teams, and went from there. A big advocate for Hudsonville Public Schools, a big advocate for our student athletes. Served as a coach with our rock football program. Actually served on the school board for 9 years. I asked him if he'd like to stick around and join the board meeting tonight. He said, I appreciate that, but I'll be okay. He still is active with the Hudsonville Lions Club. We appreciate all the work that you've done. So Howard, on behalf of the Board of Education, on behalf of Hudsonville High School, we would like to recognize you and celebrate all you've done for Hudsonville and honor you with an honorary diploma from Hudsonville High School. I asked you if you wanted to say a few words. Did you want to? Normally graduates don't get to speak at graduation, so this is a job. Right? You can say right there. I'm going to come to you. We're going to give you a diploma anyway, so we're going to come to you.
This seems kind of strange to me because here I'm getting a high school diploma in 2021, and I got my college degree from Davenport College in 1961. Not only that, my granddaughter graduated this year, Peyton Perrin here from Hudsonville High School. So for us to both graduate at the same time, you were 4.2 average and you were like 2.4. She's got the bragging rights. But I enjoyed every minute that I was on the school board, and I was there when we put on the additions and everything, and I enjoyed every bit of it, and the community was super. They went right along with us on the additions we wanted to put on, and also thank you very much for everything.
All right, now we're going to turn to our agenda again. We're at item D, the action items, the consent agenda. A number of items that are on the consent agenda there. We are approving the minutes for previous meetings, the superintendent's contract, the administrator's contracts, Hudsonville Bus Association contract, and the presentation of bills. Any questions from any board members about any of these items? And I'll entertain a motion to approve this consent agenda. Barb and Steve. Any more questions? Those who favor say yes. That is approved. Turning now to the regular action agenda, that's item E on your papers there. And do we take all of the organization items at one time?
Organization that's one, and then we do each one.
Okay. So the first item is the board meeting schedule for 2021 to 2022. Do we have a motion to approve that schedule? Steve and Don. All right. Any questions about it? Those favoring say yes.
Yes.
And that's approved. The bank depositories for 2021 and 2022, is there a motion to approve those?
Support.
All right, Larry and Don. Any questions about any of those? Those who favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. That's carried. The legal firms for 2021 and 2022, is there a motion to approve those? Okay. By Barb and Steve. All right. Any questions about those? Those who favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. That's carried as well. The Ottawa Area School Board appointment, those individuals would be Larry Piper as the appointment and Barbara Hooper as the alternate. Is there a motion to approve those?
I'd like to be on that.
Well, that's a fine thing to tell me no. Did you have something to say?
I was going to say, I didn't know whether Barb would be willing to step in as the first. Yeah, taking his primary.
Okay, Barbara's the primary.
And I'll step in as.
And Don will step in as the alternate. On that basis, do we have a motion to approve those appointments? By Steve
Support.
and by Barb. Those favoring say yes,
Yes.
and opposed no. That's carried. Administrative appointment to the Professional Development Committee. You have that before you there for 2021 and 2022. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
By Don.
Support.
Support by Steve. Any questions? Those favoring say yes,
Yes.
and opposed no. That is carried. Interim Superintendent designation for 2021 and 2022. Is there a motion to approve this? Steve,
Support.
and supported by Dawn. Any questions? Those favoring say yes,
Yes.
and opposed no, and that is carried as well. Professional memberships, is there a motion to approve these designations?
So moved.
By Barb, and supported by Steve. Any questions? Those supporting say yes, and
Yes.
those opposed say no. That's carried. All right, moving on to item number 2 there, the school bond loan application. And Pat, are you going to talk to us about that? All right.
So, thanks, Mark. This is an annual resolution that the district needs to take action. The district has participated in the school bond loan program for a number of years, largely due to the growth of the school district. This year's amount is slightly below what was projected 3 years ago. The amounts are in the packet, but this is something we need to take action on annually, and it's due back to the state by August 1st. So, are there any questions over the content of the motion?
Questions?
Thank you.
loudly. Those who approve this recommendation, is there a motion to approve this recommendation, I should say?
So moved.
By Dawn, support, supported by Perrin. Any questions? Those who favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. That's carried. Now, human resource items will turn to Ann. Here you go, Ann.
Good evening. Tonight I bring 4 teachers to the board for appointment to hire. The first, I believe that none of the candidates are here. I stood out there, I didn't see them, so I'll just talk quickly about them. But the first is an English learner teacher to support our elementary students. I'm asking for the board to hire Amy Dittmer. She is a 10-year plus experienced teacher. She's been teaching EL at Eagle Crest Elementary, which is a K-8. So I really feel that she will be very beneficial not only to our elementary but also to our middle school students. The second is Amy Dykstra. Amy Dykstra, I'm asking for the board to hire as a social worker at the high school and Jamestown Lower. Annie actually did an internship all last year with Carrie Eiselite and already knows these students, so I think it's going to be an excellent transition. The third would be Rachel Rye. Rachel Rye, we are looking to hire as a .9 for pre-K specials. Just with the increased sections of specials, we are being a little dynamic in how we're going to do it, and so we're focusing someone specifically on our pre-K students so they really get supported and know that teacher. So they will be doing pre-K specials at Jamestown Lower and ECC. Rachel was with us last year as a building sub at Jamestown Upper, as well as a long-term sub for 2 different needs that we had at Jamestown Upper. So we're excited to get Rachel in a more permanent fashion. And then finally, Nicole Rebick as an ASD categorical teacher at Allward Elementary. We had a teacher in the ASD program move on to a district closer to her home, and so this vacancy actually went kind of from Bauer to Allward to Bauer to Allward. So we landed on Allward, and Nicole, we're excited. She has experience from the Kent ISD in their ASD program. So those are the 4 items tonight.
Thank you, Ann. Do we have a motion to approve these recommendations from Ann?
So moved.
Moved by Barb, supported by Steve. Any questions about anything? Those favoring say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. This is carried. Let's move on now to the administrative hire recommendation that Doug is going to take care of.
Thanks, Mark. So after a long, extensive search to try to fill the shoes of our athletic director, Kevin Woma, which are pretty good shoes to fill, I'm very excited to make a recommendation to the board tonight. Hire Ben Farkas as our next athletic director for Hudsonville High School. Ben comes to us for the last 9 years with the Holland Public Schools system as the athletic director. Before that, he was at Delton Kellogg for about 6 years as both the athletic director and assistant principal at the high school. Before that, he spent a couple years in Bellevue, community schools for a couple years as the athletic director and high school assistant principal. Ben comes highly recommended throughout the area. As you recall, Dave Feenstra was the former principal of Hudsonville High School. He is now the OK Conference Commissioner. Was very excited to see that Ben was going to be recommended to the Board of Education tonight to be the athletic director. I've been meeting with Holland, discussing the transition. Obviously, we don't want to leave them in the lurch. Also, their kids are important to our community as a whole. We're looking forward to Ben starting off. I would like to thank Casey Glass, who has been filling his assistant athletic role actively for the past several weeks, even though technically it doesn't begin until August 1. He's been just doing a great job filling in any kind of gap to make sure it's a seamless transition as our kids, as you already know, are back at it, whether it be in the weight room, on the field, getting ready for the school year. So Ben is unable to be here tonight. I did recommend that he stayed with his family on vacation instead of driving back for a board meeting. He will meet him soon enough. And as we all know too well, the commitment from an athletic director, the balance between family and athletics is a challenge. So I wanted to finish his vacation with his family. So he'll be here soon. He's very excited to join the team. Hopefully approval, because if not, then I got to call him tonight.
Thank you, Doug. And board, very important question. So is there a motion from the board to approve this hire? Okay, that would be Don, and who supports that? Supported by Steve. Any questions about this? Those who favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no, and that's carried. We have some board policy revisions, that's in your packet as well.
Yeah, we have one quick board policy adjustment. I did send this to the policy committee for review. And policy number, 2266. 2266, regarding non-discrimination on the basis of sex and education programs or activities. There is an appeal component that is not required to be in there. One that we would like to remove from that policy. It only affects that policy alone. It's item D under the appeal process regarding any remedies that take place if they're challenged. So it is our recommendation. This will be a first reading for this policy revision. The next board meeting will ask for a second reading and implementation upon successful. Any questions regarding the policy? I know I want to thank Dawn and Barb, and I know Chad's not here, for all the policy revisions. And you do. So thank you very much for that. That is our recommendation to him.
Thank you, Doug. You have that in your packets. It's actually just one small revision, which was printed and read there. Is there a motion to approve this policy change? Larry? Steve? Any questions on it? Those who favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed say no. That's carried. Now we turn from our action items to our discussion items, and the first of those is going to be the teacher tenure status. Doug, did you want to say something about that?
As you can see in your packet, there are the group of teachers that have reached tenure status under the state tenure law. They have completed either 5 successful years at effective or highly effective rating, 3 years in a row with highly effective rating, or if they earned tenure status in a district prior to coming to Hudsonville, they earned 2 years of highly effective or effective status, and now they are granted tenure. So you have the names and the list in your packet. That's the discussion.
Nice big list.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good.
Glad to see it.
Yep.
That finishes the discussion item, and now we have report from the superintendent.
Yeah, thank you. So just a couple items to report on. I want to thank those that attended the groundbreaking just a few minutes ago. I know the ground's been broken already, but it was a celebration that you can drive down 32nd. Obviously, they've been moving dirt, a lot of dirt. Right now, we're waiting on the water line, which actually runs right on just on the south side of the building. It has to be rerouted around the current fitness center, which used to be the Turkish up there. It has to be rerouted. Once it's rerouted, they can remove the fire hydrants that are in the middle of the parking lot. Continue out to there's a fire hydrant at Passport in a nutshell. So they'll have to remove those, and then they'll begin work. If you looked at the choir room over on the freshman campus, that's coming along nicely. They'll start to tile the outside of that. Looking good. Waiting for the air handling units on the top to be installed. We're looking at the first week of August for that. Keep your fingers crossed. It was the first week of June, then the first week of July, that's the first week of August. Let's hope it's the first week of August. That is slated to open around the holiday time of this current school year, which will open up the entire fine arts wing over at the freshman campus, which would be nice. Have orchestra, band, choir, all located right around our auditorium over there at the freshman campus. The tennis venues, if you've driven by the tennis court, you'll see 2 brick structures. That is the new entrance to our tennis facility. There are a couple bathrooms in there. There's some storage, drinking fountain, and then a nice Hudsonville tennis entrance. As much as Gammons really enjoyed people using their restrooms every time there's a tennis event, now we're looking forward to them being able to use it right here on our own site, not having to go all the way to the freshman campus, past the cross, and so forth for the tennis venue. The 5-6 building is another story. As you can tell, when we have some rain, there's a lot of clay over there. It takes time for them to move some of those machines, those pretend machines. You can't really see a lot that's truly going on as you drive down 36. However, I will tell you that the footings have been poured, the walls are starting to go up, but because that building, as most of you know, is a top entrance, you can't see the lower floors, and the lower floors are starting to take shape. You can see the classroom shapes that are in there, because the footings have been poured, the walls are starting to go up. And that also is right on schedule, along with the field house here at the high school to open the summer of 2023, which seems like a long ways away, but we'll be here before we know it. So that's kind of where we are with construction. Monument signs, which most people talk about are monument signs. They look at the one at Baldwin Middle School that hasn't worked for about a year and a half. It looks nice, it just doesn't work. So the new monument signs are being installed. We hope to have them up, if not by the time school starts shortly thereafter. They are slated to go in different areas throughout the building, throughout the district. Right now, there's a new one going at Baldwin and Georgetown, there's a new site there. There's one going at Bauer Elementary. I know the one at Forest Grove they started to work on right now. And then there's other ones that'll be done at the high school campus when the field house is done, as well as the 5-6 buildings that's taking shape. The design of Forest Grove's gym, which is an addition, the cafeteria and a gym, that is complete. Now we're just waiting for the specs to come through from a drawing standpoint so that we can have an opportunity to go to bid for that project, which we hope will start construction a year from now. The nice thing about the 5-6 building, as well as the gym at Forest Grove, is those are exterior structures, so it doesn't interfere with the normal activities of a school day. Unlike, I don't know where Mr. Beal is, he's probably standing in the back. Yeah. Unlike the high school, as you can tell, all the construction truly, it's a 7-phase build on this site. So until the connection between the two, the high school and the freshman campus is complete, the kids are getting their steps in on a regular basis going around. That structure between the two buildings is taking shape, you've heard by. Lots of steel going up. You can actually now see the hallway that will go through there. They do have a temporary wall on the freshman campus so that they can do the work with that wall. That temporary wall will come down when school starts, so the stairwell will still be used for the kids. It might be closed, but that will be taken care of so the kids can still move freely throughout the building, go around the bridge, and come back in this facility. So kids find their way. You tell them where they need to be, and they figure it out. So, and last but not least, I would like to thank our team for all the work they're putting in over the summer. There are still several unknowns. We are moving forward with school starting in a normal fashion, where kids come in. They are not, if they want to wear a mask, that's completely optional. That's up to the student. But we're hoping that stays the course. We're optimistic that will be the case. But we still have to put in work to make sure that our kids stay safe, our staff stays safe, and go from there. The hiring of staff, I can tell you as a former HR person, dealing with the summer months when it comes to staffing and people moving around is a challenge. I want to thank Ann and her team for all the work they've done with hiring. I know Amy and Mandy and the work that they're doing, getting ready for the school year from an instructional standpoint, and supporting our students that have special needs. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's taking place this summer. And then all the work that Pat and his office are doing to make sure that we're on budget to do all this work and get it done. So I know the audit, you would think the audit being done and the budget being done by the end of June is a highlight, and here we go. It's just been still. So I just want to thank the team. I know we have plenty of administrators that in and around the district. I've gotten several today again. I know Mr. Beal and his staff working at the high school working hard. People always ask, how's your summer? It doesn't work that way, but that's okay. We have a great growing district. We have a lot of amazing kids. We have a lot of great things going on. And we have a lot of people that are working hard to make sure our kids are in good shape. So that's my update.
Thank you, Doug. We're at item H on the agenda. If you're following the agenda there, we've come to a time for public comment, and I suspect some of you are here because you want to be heard. And if you are from this district, it's important that you be heard, because these are your schools, and we are only serving here as your representatives. So We're here to listen, and even though we cannot engage in a healthy public exchange, we'll hear your comments, and then we'll find some way of addressing your comments as a board and your interest, and we'll find some way of getting back to you on what our discussions have been. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody's going to be happy. I abandoned that dream when I was a young minister. But we are committed to doing what is best for the whole district. We're just asking that you respect a couple of guidelines as you come forward to make your comments tonight. Number one, please give your name and address. That will be recorded. And number two, please limit your comments to 3 minutes so there'll be time for others who wish to speak. And then I just want to say one thing for the benefit of those in the audience who might not be speaking. Please respect us all by not making comments from your seats or by not applauding anyone for any reason. Please, no applause for anyone at any time. If I might quote the Bible, let all things be done decently and in order. All right, I'll open the floor now for those who wish to make comments. If you raise your hand, I'll try to call on you. Yes, please.
Do I need a mic or can everyone hear me? I'm just watching.
We can't hear you. Turn it up.
We have to make sure the board can hear you. So as long as the
Board can hear you with the microphone, right?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, respect.
That's fine. Okay, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, so my name is Kristen Megan Kelly. I first and foremost want to say I cannot give my address for security reasons. I will provide that to the board after if it's required. I just want to read to you and first say my emotions here are not of anger or anything emotional. I'm a public speaker. I lost my father 5 days ago to a brain aneurysm. I want to let you know the last text message he said to me. Hey, just thought I'd let you know I watched you and Tammy last night and thought it was very good and I'm so proud of you. Who is Tammy? Tammy Clark is a colleague of mine. We are both court-approved subject matter experts. Tammy and I have gotten requests from state governments, legislators, former President Trump, current federal senators, and congressmen to provide our expertise. I am a scientist. I have 4 science degrees. I am a senior industrial hygienist, cross-credentialed in public health and decontamination site management. I know I only have 2 minutes left, but I want you to understand something. I am former military. I'm 100% disabled. I've been denied access to this building because of my disability, and I have an open civil rights case against this school. I would love to shut that down if someone would listen to me. Tell me why now my state and federal is requiring you to implement HVAC standards. You have to increase your air exchanges per hour. Do you know that I offered my services for free since May of 2020 to come in and do a health risk assessment to ensure that you can follow the hierarchy of controls to make sure that your staff and your students were safe and your immunocompromised were safe? Why? Following the hierarchy of controls would have led you to something called dilution and destruction technology through engineering controls. So you have to ask yourself, why is former President Trump, why are current congressmen and senators reaching out to Kristen Megan Kelly, who lives in Hudsonville, Michigan? Because I work for myself and nobody can fire me. And I would speak the science, and it doesn't involve politics. I'm a libertarian. What I try to include you on is to understand that there's a device called the iWave Air, $10,000 per building. Instead of using those federal COVID funds to protect your students, you're now using it for DEIB, which is CERT. I have a foreign exchange student coming. The exchange student is led to believe that America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Help me show her that's true. Because right now, we're the land of the unfree and the home of the enslaved by fear and propaganda. And I stand here honestly, I'm still willing to help you if you would listen to the experts. Not every school has me in their backyard. But you know what? There are schools in the state who are using their COVID funds to implement the iWave Air. I don't profit off it, it's just what I recommend as a scientist. So please help me. Be the change you wish to see.
Thank you for your comments. Who is next? Yes.
Hello, my name is Lee Goff. I live at 7386 Alicia Drive here in Hudsonville. And I'd like to address the board concerning critical race theory. In 1619, Sugo destroyed the history of British. I would urge the board to pass resolutions that these subjects be never taught in any Hudsonville school. I think you should make that a policy. And I would like to see if we've done that and you would send me a copy of that policy. Also, I would like that you would inform your staff, your teachers, your supervisory staff, that anyone who's teaching anything related to these subjects in a non-critical manner, in other words, endorsing it, would be subject to discipline up to and including termination. I also would like to encourage you to monitor the classrooms in some way. Either invite parents in, and they could come on an unannounced audit, or you would have some means of surveillance that would be permanent, that could be viewed to ensure that nobody in this school district is teaching these subjects. I believe they are harmful for the children, I believe they are harmful for the community, and I believe they are harmful for the United States of America. Thank you.
Just to be fair to you, if there are more outbursts of applause, I'm going to ask you to go into a recess for 10 minutes and then come back. If after that there are more outbursts of applause, I will ask for a dismissal of the meeting. We need to be respectful of everybody here.
Is there any way that they could use a microphone? We're having a very difficult time hearing back here.
I'll address it this way. Can you hear me this way? Because I am talking to
No.
residents.
Get the mic.
Microphone? We do need a microphone.
All right, can everybody hear me now? Great to see you guys, great to be heard. All right, well, I'm Nate Kelly. I live in Hudsonville. I'm also not going to give my address for security purposes. I came here livid at what was done to me and the rest of the people at the last visit when you brought in that race grifter to gaslight the crowd like we had no idea what's going on. I would like an apology for that. And then I hear that you are trying to perpetuate this again as you work your way around and reword things like we're not going to get it, and then you were going to create division while trying to create equality, and that is not something we are prepared to allow. We here are coming to you as the people who put you in place to represent us. Like you said, you represent us. These people here are asking you, hey, represent us. Do not drive a wedge into our family units. If the person who had come here knew about Hudsonville, they would know that Hudsonville people are very, very faith-based. We, the people in my community, especially the people of color, are brought in from third world countries. Everything else. We have true African Americans in my neighborhood. I don't need these people coming here who are living an amazing life with people who love them, communities that love them, and being, hey, guess what? You shouldn't like the people who brought you in because of this. They did this to you. This is something that happened. That is not something that is going to bring them together, make them love their family. They're not going to get any equity or equality out of it. I feel like you're looking at me like I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's really disturbing.
My main point is, as a veteran myself, frontline combat, who's been to some of these places that this man tried to talk about and has seen desperate poverty, has seen people displaced by governments and people who are actually bringing them down, that is not what's going on. Propel our students into the future by telling them, hey, you're all on equal footing, we're all gonna do awesome here, get along with your buddy, and we are gonna make it as a unit, not, hey, this person did this in the past, you should feel bad about it. That is not it. We are one, we are united, and as a veteran, that is not what I went to foreign countries to not bring home. I want it here. I want unity, I want one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice, and I definitely don't want a BLM flag sitting next to that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
My name is Michael Tamiga. I live at 3685 Lee Street, right here in Hudsonville. And that's okay, he was invited to come over, and I'd be more than happy to. My wife Pamela and I have 4 beautiful children within the Hudsonville public school system. I've also been raised in the Hudsonville area and have 2 generations before me that have roots in this community as well. We are proud to call Ottawa County, and specifically the greater Hudsonville area, our home to raise our family and our children, and the fact that our children are educated here. I've been a police officer my entire professional career in this community. I've observed how our country and our culture has shifted within a narrative in the last 18 months that is very divisive and has brought much hatred for one another for many different reasons. That's simply based on assumptions about other people and professions that they know nothing about. I've also observed the process of how the administration here at HPS has begun to implement the DEIB ideology into our school district. The history of the ideas used to promote DEIB work are clearly rooted in controversial issues. And it's being discussed and addressed in a very public space within our country. Most people agree the dialogue about these issues needs to continue, because clearly we have issues within our community that need to be addressed. I don't think anybody here is disagreeing with that. The issue is that if these controversial DEIB ideologies are pushed within our school district to the entire staff, the natural outcome is that it will be pushed into the classroom. These are controversial issues that dialogue continues to need to happen. I understand that HPS has taken the stand that CRT is not curriculum within our district. That's okay, and that may be true. But the fact is that DEIB work and the ideologies behind it run parallel to CRT. Again, if these are taught to the entire staff within the district, those ideas will be promoted within the classroom curriculum or not. This is where many parents clearly have deep concern. And we have concern about the relationship the district continues to pursue with Mr. Newman and the training he is scheduled to provide. After listening to Mr. Newman's DEIB instructions myself online, I can see why there's deep concern. This is why we as parents are asking you all, and with all respect due to each one of you as leaders in our school district, to hit the pause button for a while on the current path of the DEIB that our district is pursuing, for the sole purpose of continuing to figure out what this needs to look like within our community. This needs to happen alongside the entire community at HPS so that we can all be confident in exactly what this needs to look like within our district moving forward. Doing this would prove to us that you are all using wisdom and discernment in your decisions. Proverbs 14 reminds us that those who are cautious are wise. This then translates into understanding your way or the path that you're on. In other words, if you want to make wise decisions, be cautious, and then you will truly understand the direction that we as a district need to pursue. Please hear us as parents. We are asking you to pause for a moment. Be cautious with the direction you are going with DEIB ideology so that decisions are filled with knowledge and wisdom and can be made for the best of our kids. May the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, continue to bless you all with that wisdom.
Well, speak this evening.
It's a long walk up here. Good evening. My name is Neil Slime. I can give my address if anybody's a president for that. I am the father of 3 of the best students at Hudsonville Public Schools. Yeah, I see you're laughing. I see they're particularly fond of the pizza in the cafeterias. They're particularly fond of the chocolate. They really like but it's kind of funny I just said that because the nuances of that are really important, right? Are those facts or are those opinions? It's an opinion that my children are the best students that you have. Is it a fact that they like the pizza? Well, it is, but it's based upon their opinion. You see, the nuances matter, right? The way that we talk about things matters. I wondered when I came here, would the board be interested in facts, or would they be interested in just numbers of people that held opinions? I reviewed the code of ethics that you all signed, or some of you signed, I would imagine, and it says that you are interested in the facts, and I think you've done a great job of that. It's my understanding that there are some motions that do not think that we should address or teach critical race theory in the schools, and I couldn't disagree with that more. I think that should be taught, and I applaud the efforts to go ahead and have that theory, right, addressed and given to our children. I appreciate that very much. I'm also aware that there might be some asks or considerations for you all to bar the use of masks next year, regardless of what the situation is. I highly encourage you not to do that. Again, things based upon facts, not opinions. The nuances are very important. I'd also like to thank the 2 young men over here that I hope or expect are students of Hudsonville Public Schools. I think it's a shame that there aren't more students here, and I hope that they have the courage to get up and speak today. I'd also like to mention how disappointed I am that we have only 1 microphone, a thing that allows people to be heard, and yet we have some kind of amazing television here that permits the ability for the public to speak and give their opinions. I think that's terrible. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Sorry, I'm short. My name's Tani. I live in Jamestown with my husband and 2 daughters. My husband and I are both from Bangor originally and have known each other since we're 5. Bangor has a similar atmosphere as Hudsonville, but a lot smaller. There's a rainbow of skin color that makes up both of our family dynamics. My mother was born in 1934, and we definitely had a different worldview, and that didn't sit right for me at all. How can my mother, who loved Jesus, go to church on Sunday, yet talk about serving a group of people on occasion? I think that is very backwards. After graduation from high school, I moved to Grand Valley to become a teacher and graduated in 2001. During that season of my life, I didn't think it was a big deal to visit healing racism sessions. I figured I had to go since I was president of the Minority Teacher Education Center program at that time. I was dumbfounded by all the bitterness that my fellow classmates had within them. Granted, many of them may have experienced first-hand racism, but the rest, in my opinion, had been living in the past of others' shoes. After that had ended, I signed up to study abroad in Stellenbosch, South Africa for 6 weeks. That was a beautiful, life-changing experience, even though personally I have never dealt with racism or oppression. I've seen firsthand that in my face. That broke my heart, and these families were going through, and I realized how truly blessed and free we are as Americans. After that, I enrolled at Davenport University to become a medical assistant and a phlebotomist and graduated with a 4.0. I was a medical assistant for 10 years before changing careers so I can work from home. I know you want to know, I know I want you to know that at no point in my life I ever felt oppressed. I've had every opportunity. I was never told no. I took some of these paths because I pursued them, because I wanted to challenge myself and be better. And my mother always said, what you say is what you get. I truly believe that in the power of the tongue, and that it can bring life or death. If you allow CRT and DEIB to be integrated into our community and schools, you're allowing death. My husband and I have chosen Hudsonville as our home due to the conservativeness of the community. We didn't want our girls to procure liberal lives. If you don't know this, now tell me the communities of colors raise their children conservatively, sorry, I wrote that backwards, but vote liberally. I never understood that nonsense. It makes no sense to me. So here we are at Hudsonville for the third time, and I'm speaking to protect the future from the stupidity and ignorance that is trying to invade our community. Board members, it is okay to say no to this racist indoctrination that you're being treated and threatened with. Yes, I said it. CRT and DEIB is racist. Do not let fear take hold of you in all of this and cause confusion. There may need to be changes, like teachers displaying their personal beliefs to students instead of sticking to instructional lessons that are neutral. Please allow parents to be parents. However, do not jump on every bandwagon that knocks on your door just to be politically correct. Yes, I know my time is up. Yes, we have a recent graduate and an upcoming junior, but we're fighting for our future. And I pray that you will stand and fight for the future as well. I know over time, things will change, but if you have any questions for me, I am open, my husband's open.
Amen. I hope you understand I'm not trying to be rude by maintaining order. I'm trying to maintain order.
Good evening. My name is MJ Fernandez and I live off of Jasper Drive. I want to begin by thanking you so much for serving and our students and our community. Too often we overlook that and all you hear is the negative, so thank you so much for being here and for listening. I want to speak tonight in support of DEIB and our school system. The goal of public education is to support and teach all students, to give a voice to everyone, not just the squeaky wheels and not just the majority. We are not educating students to be Hudsonville adults. Our students are already equipped to navigate our community. The more important task here is to educate our students to be able to be a part of a community that does not look or act or think like them. Therefore, it is imperative that we equip our students with the tools necessary to experience and understand differences within one another. Our differences are what make each of us unique. If we don't teach our students about our differences, how can we show that they are valued? When we don't value our differences, these differences become scary and other. And when that occurs, discrimination quickly becomes the norm. This is why it is so important that our students need to be able to interact, understand, and empathize with people who are not the same as them. Most of the opposition to DEIB would be CRT or the incorrect idea of CRT. This is a false parallel and the two should not be combined. I hear those in opposition to DEIB falsely arguing that it will mean that teachers will be talking about systemic racism all day, every day, that teachers will be shaming white children and telling minorities that they are oppressed. However, this could not be further from the truth. DEIB is exactly what the acronym stands for: diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. This means that people of different races are being heard and understood, yes, but it also means that people with different religions, sexuality, gender, and disability, they all feel as if they are represented in their school too. DEIB ensures that all children feel like they are valuable, heard, understood, and belong. By including DEIB's underlying premise in our educational system, we are only aiding our students in becoming better citizens for the future, citizens with a better understanding of and empathy for those around them. If we seek to exclude this from our schools, we are excluding a very important facet to education, preparing students for their future. Knowledge, to be sure, is one of the main reasons for education, but socialization, citizenship, and empathy are far greater goals. As a teacher, I always told my students, yes, I want you to be good at math. I want you to love math. But more importantly, I want you to be a good human being, a good citizen to our world. By attempting to remove this goal from the classroom, you are stripping teachers of their reason to be educators in the first place, the children. Thank you very much.
My name is Christine Parrish, and I live in Hudsonville. I had a call with Dr. Vanderjack at the end of April to ask questions about the DEIB training. During this call, I took extensive and detailed notes, and I will share with you what I found to be alarming. I asked if certain groups of people, like my children, would be taught as oppressors. He responded that he didn't know the answer to that. He said that's a deeper dive into the curriculum, what's taught, when it's taught, and where it's taught. He said they would continue to do a deeper dive into the curriculum, and that will come to light as they continue to evaluate our textbooks, our pacing guides for teachers, and what's taught. I then told him I was surprised his answer to my question wasn't a strong no, that my children would not be taught as oppressors. Because obviously, dividing children up based on race, calling one group an oppressor and another a victim, will cause division between students. I asked if he was at all concerned with this, and he said he didn't think that would happen, and he wasn't concerned with it. He told me he was more concerned with having a group of students that don't have a voice than my 6- and 8-year-old children being categorized as oppressors. I once again asked how he will ensure that my boys will not be seen as oppressors, and he told me he believes the future will look a lot better when my boys are in high school, and he believes we have work to do as a district. He said they continue to evaluate the staff to make sure they are teaching to the content. He believes that the school's job is to challenge beliefs and not question them, and believes they can do that and are doing that. I'm hearing a very different story from people in our district. I asked if he could quantify the instances of racism that we have in our school, and he told me he couldn't. He told me one is too many. While I completely agree, racism is evil and has absolutely no place in our world. Focusing on our differences on skin color is racism. I will not allow my children to be exposed to this. Unfortunately, we have decided to pull both of our boys from Hudsonville, as you have clearly decided to go along with this racist work. This is approximately a $24,000 loss to HPS. Well, that doesn't sound like much. We haven't asked parents how many are strongly considering pulling their children if this training continues, and have received an alarming amount of 153 students, which would cost the district approximately $1,836,000. You continue to state over and over again this is not critical race theory, yet have chosen someone whose beliefs are exactly the same as critical race theory. This has absolutely no place at HPS and will only further divide our students and community. I once again beg you, please reevaluate your plan, cut ties with Julian Newman, and end this Marxist approach to racism that looks at skin color and causes further division. We need unity, not division. Thank you so much for listening to my concerns.
Good evening, board, administrators, everybody. My name is Aaron Doogie. I am the moderator and youth director at Hudsonville UCC, as well as an original founding board member of Ottawa Area Center for Pride, and I live at 3175 Perrin here in Hudsonville. MLK said, "Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. Justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." So I'd ask the board and everyone here, is it just that suicide rates for all teens have doubled in the last 2 decades, not even counting the effects of the pandemic? Is it in line with love that LGBT youth are
are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide than their straight peers, or that even one episode of victimization increases the likelihood of self-harm by an average of 2.5 times? Is it just that our district has one of the highest rates of seclusion, in line with love and an achievement gap among our Hispanic children? And is it just that our black children have a much greater chance of being suspended than their non-minority peers? I'm sure no one in this room would say yes to that. So thank you, board. Thank you for meeting the demands of justice and implementing SEL so that our children and youth can learn and manage their emotions during a pandemic that has brought youth mental health to the forefront. That work is sure to save lives. Thank you. Thank you for hearing the other states I've quoted and realizing the injustice in them, and choosing to provide teachers and administrators the tools necessary to combat them through DEIB training. This is a great first step toward correcting that which stands against love. We still have work to do, of course. We can always do better. But I applaud our board and administrators for taking these steps and taking seriously the all in the mission statements and statements of belief. I know this has been a rough time. And if you're feeling disheartened in this work, I hope these words, again from MLK, can give you comfort and encouragement. Keep moving. For it may well be that the greatest song has not yet been sung, the greatest book has not yet been written, the highest mountain has not yet been climbed. This is your challenge. We must keep moving. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. I look forward to all of us moving together forward for all children with whatever method we need to keep getting there. Thank you all very much.
And I too wanted to thank you for the willingness that you've displayed to serve, even though it is an impossible time to do so. Your job's got incredibly harder in the last year, and I thank you for serving. But I want to thank you also for taking the intentional steps that you have to try to create an environment that is more welcoming to everyone. As I've been sitting here and listening to these comments, I've been reflecting on what it is that I want for my daughters. And what it boils down to me, beyond the successes they can have or what they can do with their lives, I want them to be kind. I want them to be kind, and I want them to be respectful to everyone, regardless of their situation or their lived experience. Part of that is to acknowledge that not everyone has had the same experience that they have. And growing up together in the same community, attending the same schools, they're still not going to have that same experience. Being able to listen to and learn from people who have that different experience is part of what makes a human experience great. I believe that all people, including the minority populations in our schools, deserve to be heard. I also think that the process to ensure that they are heard must be intentional, as it certainly hasn't been so far. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I appreciate your help in creating a more kind and respectful environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
My husband and I have moved inside this district. Our kids, 3 kids, have gone to Park, Jamestown Elementary, Forest Grove, Baldwin, Riley, and the high school. When our daughter graduated in 2018, we were really sad for her to be leaving these days behind, Hudsonville Public School days for her. But over the last few years, we've noticed many changes. I remember walking the halls of Jamestown, and there'd be buckets all on the wall, and the kids would have to put little things in them, bucket fillers for encouragement. Shaky voice, I don't know, for acts of kindness and stuff. It was so awesome to see kids doing that. And now there's Black Lives Matters cookies being brought into the staff. Our son last year asked if he could wear a Trump hat, and I was really nervous as mom. I'm like, ugh. So I warned him, like, you're gonna get mocked for kids probably, just be prepared. So he wore it to school. And I said to him, if you get mocked, just smile and walk away. So he came home and I said, so what happened? And he said, I said, did any kid say anything? And he said, no, just the teacher. And the teacher said something in front of the whole class to him. And he didn't say anything. He was respectful and didn't say a word back. But where's the love for all the kids? So we're looking forward to our son graduating. Very forward to it. We're excited that this year he's at Tech Center learning what he loves to do most of the day. A month or so ago we heard from Julian Newman on a training he was introducing to our district. He said what drove him was when he was in first grade, he was targeted by boys that he called forts who beat him up on his way home from school. His grandma came onto the scene with a stick and protected him, ran him off. Except, according to an article he wrote titled Lost Boys of America, Riots, Rage, and Redemption, the story is different. It says he was on his way to school, and the bully who targeted everyone tried to punch him. But with his new cowboy boots given to him by his dad, he started kicking the bully over and over and over again until they cried and left. What is the truth, and why is he not telling it? We know people make money off stories. They go work for Disney, not Hudsonville Public Schools. The kids in our school, all races, LGBTQ+, all of the kids deserve the truth. The truth in history, the truth in all the subjects. I understand you're feeling caught in the middle. Do you understand what DEIB does? Because that's what our kids are going to feel.
Last time I spoke in front of a group of Hudsonville parents, students, teachers, and administrators was during my speech at Hudsonville's 2019 graduation ceremony. Now I stand before you again and I'm wondering, what's going on? I may be 2 years removed from sitting in these classrooms, but I'm still an invested member of this community and have 2 younger sisters who have been at Hudsonville the last 2 years. What I've heard from my sisters and other students about Hudsonville the last couple of years has astounded and saddened me. The school I remember, a place where I was free to connect, learn, explore, and speak out, not having to fear sharing my beliefs, seems to have disappeared. Instead, I hear stories about students mocking and demonizing their peers for their political, moral, or religious views, and I hear about teachers who are more interested in indoctrinating or spreading their opinion about social and political issues, rather than actually teaching truth and facts. While all of this is going on, this school board seems more interested in allowing divisive and dangerous policy and curriculum instead of working to make Hudsonville Public Schools a place where students can go to class to learn instead of being worried about if they are being taught truth or opinion. It saddens me to see so many students, even this year, leaving Hudsonville to go somewhere else because of the school atmosphere and the policies and curriculum this board supports. These students who are leaving include my youngest sister, who, instead of attending Hudsonville High School next year for her freshman year, will be attending Unity Christian High School in order to get away from an environment that is hostile to our family's values and a student body that has become increasingly judgmental and hostile to any belief they do not agree with. This is a trend I expect will only grow and repeat itself year after year if this board does nothing, as I know that parents in this community care deeply about their children's education and many are taking action. I am speaking today because I believe that Hudsonville can and must do better. Do better to make Hudsonville a place where truth, not opinion, is taught in the classroom. And the values taught at school are integrity, honesty, unity, peace, kindness, freedom, and justice for all, not division and judgment. Many on this school board and many of those in our district's administration have fallen asleep at the wheel, have not challenged toxic and divisive ideas such as critical race theory, and DEIB before allowing them to make inroads into our schools, or worse, have introduced them or pushed them these ideas themselves. I want you to know today, you will be held accountable. If it is not today, then you will be held accountable when student count numbers are compiled and when you run for re-election. It is past time you begin listening to the members of this community in order to respond before it's too late. Thank you.
The board for a motion for a 10-minute recess. We'll go back in 10 minutes. All in favor, say yes. We are adjourned. We are in recess for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I really am a nice guy. That's not the majority opinion. My intent in calling for a recess is not to hurt anybody's feelings, not to cut anybody off, but my concern is that we need to hear all who want to speak. And when we have a rally atmosphere, that hinders the process of what we're trying to do here. So please try to understand that. I wasn't trying to be rude or cruel, but we have to keep some decorum. So we'll go ahead for a while here. If we're getting repetitive, and I'm trying to keep notes on the topics that are being talked about, if we're getting repetitive, I'll let you know, because we do have a closed session we have to go into as a board this evening too, so I don't want to go on all night. I do have a home family too. All right, I'll open the floor again for someone who'd like to come and speak to us. Yes.
My name is Kate Ritzman. I live in Jamestown. Unfortunately, you will not be hearing my words be spoken, but you will be hearing someone from this community's testimony. And I would also like to address the yellow shirts here, are the family members of students who are against what you're trying to change at Hudsonville. Hudsonville Public Schools are at a crossroads. Some in our community are very conservative, and some are very progressive. Almost everyone in our community is a taxpayer. Taxes pay for schools, and all people should be able to use their schools without the threat of the school undermining the values that their children learn at home. It seems to be a thing to think that parents are uneducated and backward, but no teacher would want their child's values to be undermined at school. Every parent feels the same way. So how can the schools truly serve both of these continuums? We need neutral ground, focusing on academics and respect for everyone. When you have teachers displaying Black Lives Matter posters in their classrooms, that's not neutral ground. When you have a high school teacher who posts on Facebook, if your mom doesn't accept your sexual orientation or identity, I'm your new mom, that's not neutral ground. When a high school teacher puts a poster on their desk that says, there's nobody's opinion I value less than a Trump supporter, that's not neutral ground. When you have 3 middle school boys at urinals, humiliated by a girl who is in the boys' restroom waiting for a stall, that's not neutral ground. When Julian Newman, who is a wealthy black man with a daughter who graduated from George Washington University, a daughter who graduated from Howard University, and a daughter who will be entering Columbia University in Chicago this fall, is hired for $24,000 to educate our staff on how white people are inherently privileged victimizers and black people are inherently victims, that's not neutral ground. When 24 people come up with $1,600 to donate over 200 controversial books with LGBTQ and racist themes to our middle school language arts classroom without being screened, that's not neutral ground. When Ibram X. Kendi, an author of some of these books and an ideologue embraced by Julian Newman, says, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. And he also says that capitalism is racist. That's not neutral ground. When Bauer Elementary, and likely others, use Prodigy Math, a computer program, one problem says they survey 5 girls, 5 boys, and 5 non-binary children. Do we want this ideology in elementary school? Are parents even aware that Prodigy promotes LGBTQ ideology? That's not neutral ground. The SOAR program you've implemented, Be Safe, Own It, Act Responsibly, Be Respectful, sounds like it has been very effective in creating consistency and promoting good behaviors throughout the district. Now social and emotional learning will be the Day 4 special. Is this replacing STEAM? For some grade levels, last year science and social studies were canceled in the elementary. Will they be back this year? The majority of our children are functioning very well and don't need psychological lessons about emotions and values from their school. This replaces academics, and this replaces the parents in the nurture and training of their children. That's not neutral ground. Please respect every family and every child and return Hudsonville schools to neutral ground. Thank you.
My name is Steve Salowitz, and I would disclose, I'll give you my address afterwards and stuff. I'm in Georgetown Township, and I'm a taxpayer. I don't have kids in school here, I don't have grandkids in school here, but 83% of my summer taxes go to education across the state. And my concerns are about CRT, but I want to reveal a bit more about CRT that I've done through a lot of research. All you need to do is look at the Michigan Department of Education website, and you can find out what direction this is going. On October 9th in 2020, the Department of Education adopted a teacher training approach that's called Tools for Evaluating Bias. Anyone here can look that up, they can Google it. And also, in their annual report for 2020, on page 18, they have a full-page description of their plan for anti-racism. And also, on February 17th in 2021, they developed a new department of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the state level. And on August 23rd, Ms. Renee Garcia from Muskegon will take over that role as the director. I don't know if very many people understand that. I am very thankful that Hudsonville Schools has a good record for education. I looked up their MSTEP scores. And in English and math, they're doing great. They're beyond what the norms are, what the national average is, and even the state average. Social studies, though, need a lot of work. They really they don't meet the norm for social studies in Hudsonville schools. I can agree that CRT is not a curriculum, but what it is, through the study that I've done, is it's a methodology, and teachers are being trained to implement the methodology to make it part of their teacher approach, the way that they engage with students in the classroom. Because it's a methodology, then it runs the risk of becoming behavioral modification. And like some people have said, our values that we teach in our own homes should not be subservient to what the teachers bring into the classroom. All we have to do is look at that. All we have to do is do a little bit of research, and we can find out what you guys are up against. So I have a couple questions. Is this methodology being mandated by the state of Michigan? How much funding does Hudsonville stand to lose if they do not implement this? And could teachers stand up against it if they don't believe it? Thank you very much.
Way in the back, okay, yes, I see it. Go back up.
Hi, my name is Carol Phelps, and I'm in Plainfield Township. I just had a couple questions.
questions to start off. How many of you have children or grandchildren? How many of you want your children or grandchildren to live in a free country? Have you done any research on critical race theory? Equity, inclusion, diversity, it's the same thing. If you are listening to the mainstream channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, that's not research. I don't know about everyone else here, but I do know what's going on. I've done my research. CRT is not history, it's teaching our children to hate each other. Combine it with vaccines, masks, teaching extreme sexual content to kids, and you have one thing, division and evil. And why would the government want to divide people in our country? I can think of a reason, so they can take over. Yes, that sounds silly. They've been trying for years, and now everything's coming together. We all need to work together to stop this. That means all of you, along with all of the parents here. Your children and grandchildren are not immune from this. Even if they're in private schools or charter schools, this socialist agenda is coming and being forced onto every child and family in this country. Do you feel in control because you're at the school board? Do you feel safe? Do you think your children and grandchildren are safe? Think again. Stand up for your own kids, your own families. Don't allow this. You are being used to push an evil agenda. The federal government and all its wonderful funding for schools has severe consequences. There's a reason the government is giving money to teach CRT and sexually explicit content, forcing masks and vaccines. It's all part of their plan, a two-tier society. They want control of all of us, yes, including you and your families. Are you okay with communism? Do you want it for your children? Do you want your grandchildren hating the country they live in? Then say okay to CRT and the splitting up of our country. Stop taking the money. It has dire consequences. Give the money back that you're already receiving. Yes, we know you've been giving money to teach the kids all these hideous things. If you truly do not know what I'm talking about, get on other stations and listen to what's going on behind the scenes. 91.7, American Family Association, One America News, One News Now, The Epic Times, Breitbart, Newsmax, and there's a whole bunch more. If you don't want to be a part of ruining this beautiful country, do your research and find out what you are contributing to. I guarantee it, in a communist country, you will not be sitting in those chairs deciding what the school teaches our children. You and all of us will be controlled and left with nothing. Thank you.
Are we okay to move ahead? You understand the ground rules, right? In the back, please.
Short and sweet. First of all, I want to say, Aaron Compagner, I live in Jamestown. First of all, I want to say, I think I could piggyback off of what the young lady said a bit ago about you guys will be voted out if it has to come to that. That's for one. For two, I assure you and guarantee you, if my kids are 5 and 3 right now. If they are getting in elementary and high school and there's CRT or 1619 project or any of this Marxist, fascist, communist crap being taught to them, guaranteed I will pull my chip. Guaranteed. It's a promise. That's it.
Yes.
I'm speaking tonight out of concern that Hudsonville Public Schools' commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging education within the district is drawing misdirected ire from the members of our community. I've come to understand that some individuals in our community believe that DEIB is not in line with the values of Hudsonville Public Schools, but I believe it is a misunderstanding of what DEIB means. The HPS mission statement to educate, challenge, and inspire all learners to become contributing, responsible members of a global society makes it clear to me that diversity is valued by the school district and board. The first of 3 beliefs that are listed immediately following the mission statement states that the Hudsonville Public School District believes that all students can learn. This tells me that the HPS and the board value equity because equity in learning is what allows our students who need IEPs and 504 plans to have success in the classroom. The HPS website also highlights the uniqueness of our district because it is large enough to offer a comprehensive academic program while still remaining small enough to provide individual attention and support for our students. It makes the HPS and board's commitment to inclusion quite clear. The story Dr. Vanderjagt told us at the community DEIB meeting last month about how he determines his success as an educator was an excellent example of how HPS and the school board are committed to belonging in our community. Thank you. Lastly, attempts I have heard to conflate DEIB with critical race theory is a misrepresentation of both DEIB and CRT. Additional training of administrators, teachers, staff, and appropriately implementing DEIB efforts into the classroom benefits all students by ensuring their needs are met with compassion and empathy. Thank you for your continued efforts in making Hudsonville Public Schools the best district it can be. As a parent of 2 children in the district, I look forward to continuing to be a part of the cooperative partnership that Hudsonville Public Schools is working so hard to achieve.
You've now heard me and dozens of others speak for 4 months. Have you ever stopped to think of why all these parents, former teachers, and community members are suddenly showing up in crowds at every board meeting? Over these past 4 months, have you ever questioned the decisions you've made for HPS's future? Listen to your hearts, not the money. It has been said these board meetings are not the place for a dialect, but you have not shared with us when that time and place is that we can have a respectful conversation with you, the board. You've rejected our suggestion of a town hall meeting, but haven't given an alternative. Listen carefully to your words taken from your bios. The role of the board is to represent community members. The primary work of the board is to be involved with the community, working with community. We work with the community to develop a vision and goals for the district. As a member of the board, my priorities are to maintain the community's values. I agree all students should feel safe and feel they belong to the HPS Eagles family. However, when I hear you say all is all, what I hear is all is others. We do not feel represented in that all. It is the others. If you mean all is all, then you would be more receptive to the hundreds of parents who have grave concerns with the direction HPS is heading. I will continue to show up and sacrifice time with my family because I will not allow this indoctrination within this school and our great community because it will cause great division and hatred. It has in my family. The majority of this community believes in God and that He created us all in His image. Proverbs 10:12. Hatred stirs up dissension, but love covers all wrongs. Romans 12:9 and 10. Don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. In conclusion, a few questions for you to pray over and answer. How do you define working with and representing the Hudsonville community as a whole? When is the time and place to have a respectful conversation with the board members? Do you board members want the changes initiated to our excellent school be your legacy? Board members, are you willing to stop moving forward and instead remain neutral with government politics at HPS? How do you plan to control control teachers in their classroom instruction and their classroom books. Thank you again for your time, and we will continue to pray for you.
Way in the back, I see the paper on the table there.
Sherry Phillips, I live on 40th Avenue. I have a statement from a teacher that I am actually going to read of HPS. I want to start though in my own words by saying that I think it's extremely sad that some of the staff at Hudsonville feel as though they must voice their words through parents or taxpayers of this community instead of speaking for themselves. They are terrified of losing their jobs or receiving backlash from administration or their principals if they speak out against what is happening in our school. Doesn't that worry or concern you? Where is the support for these teachers? It seems that some are allowed to voice their opinion and others are not. I was given a statement from HPS employee who have been asked to read it to you tonight, so this is her words. As a current Hudsonville Public School employee, I came here with the assumption it was my job to check my political, religious, and all other beliefs at the door. My job is to love and support every child that walks through the door no matter what. This is basically the first rule of working in education and something HPS used to do. In the last year, I've noticed that this too is no longer the norm. For instance, there have been emails asking us to love on them a little more when it comes to certain races of students. Employees have been posting controversial things on social media and it is going unnoticed or maybe even ignored by HPS. Political and social movement, propaganda, and controversial books are popping up in buildings around the district. Now with Julian Newman on board, we are without a doubt heading in a direction where discrimination will start to take place more and more. I encourage you to Google him and come to your own conclusions. This breaks my heart. Education is supposed to be unbiased and neutral. If you teach one side of a story, you must also teach the other side, so students can become critical thinkers themselves and begin to make their own decisions. Education is not supposed to be telling students what to think or believe. This breaks my heart is broken seeing the lack of fight from administration and the board on this issue. It feels as though you have been brainwashed and belittled into believing that you are the oppressor that Julian Newman says you are. How sad. I'm working overtime trying to teach my kids to love everyone and work hard to get to know other characters on the inside. It is scary to think that they may come to school and be taught to view skin color as the most important feature of a person. I am not on board with DEIB-SEL. This ideology was never meant for children and will only drive this community apart. HPS will no longer be an option to many if the ideology continues. And since I have just a little bit of time speaking personally for me, I do not feel I can trust the direction you are taking HPS at this time. I don't feel you are being transparent and working to represent this community of Hudsonville. You have lost credibility and my trust. I have seen examples of teachers being way out of line, very political, one-sided, pictures, posters in school. Why do they feel this is okay? Is there any accountability or anyone in the building watching this? For these reasons, our 2 children have been pulled from HPS. It's not an easy decision. They will be homeschooled or at Hudsonville Christian. You may not care about my 2 kids being removed, but I think you will see much more of this than you think this year. And it seems that the examples are of teachers being out of line, not students.
Amen.
My name is Joan Bass, and thank you for being here and thank you for having all of us today. I'm a local parent and grandparent, and I live on Summer Green Lane in Hudsonville. I'm a local parent and grandparent and Hudsonville taxpayer of 33 years. I have 2 Hudsonville graduates, both who graduated ready to enter a global society. I'm speaking today due to concern of Hudsonville bringing in concepts of critical race theory into our local schools. In my experience, which goes back quite a few years, Hudsonville has always brought in leaders who understood the community. Strong homes, parent support make for a good, successful students and a cooperation between home and school. Homes teach values and character. Schools teach academics to ready the child to be in the world they will enter. U.S. students are already behind European and other students in academics. With the introduction of CRT and similar concepts, or whatever name you choose to call them, into classrooms, I believe this will weaken academics. Their attention should be to strengthen academics, not introducing time-wasting indoctrination. I believe you are contemplating introducing concepts that are poisonous to young minds and hearts. To instruct a child that their whiteness is something to be ashamed of or feel guilty about is just unthinkable. To teach a child who is a minority that they are forever defeated and there is no way to get ahead is a downright lie. One just needs to look around in our society to see many minority persons who are in leadership positions today. Many of these same people are laughing at this teaching because they see what a lie it is. They have overcome it. They are also grieved to think that young people today will be influenced by this negative, defeatist propaganda. Most of us were raised to treat all equally. I believe this proposed teaching is taking us backwards in time. Martin Luther King wished his children would be judged because of their character, not the color of their skin. You are contemplating a teaching in the year 2021 that is totally opposite. Why would we want to go back in time? Why would we contemplate introducing a teaching that focuses solely on race and pits people against each other? This is not the Hudsonville I have known for 33 years and my children were educated in. I believe our children and our grandchildren have received better and deserve better. There is a reason this teaching has been banned in 7 states. Other states in Michigan, including Michigan, are considering bans. There is good reason to reconsider introducing this teaching that rewrites history. This teaching rewrites history, has Marxist roots, and the potential to hurt the students we have vowed to educate and protect. Thank you.
My name is Eliana Gallery, and I live on Fort Point here in Hudsonville. I'll be brief. I only have 3 points that I'd like to make today. One of it, I actually would like to agree with one of the parents that has actually opposing views from the ones that I'm going to express here today. I'm not going to refer to her as a pundit, as another parent did, because I think we all here are concerned parents and taxpayers, so we need to treat each other with respect. She said that we wanted to educate students to understand and accept others not for how they, others who do not look, think, and act like them. I agree, and I think the majority of the parents here agree with that. The only thing that we may differ on is who's responsible for that. And I'm not going to say the majority, but in the opinion of some of us, that is the responsibility of us as parents, not the school. The school is responsible for teaching for curriculum. There is an opportunity to have debate. Maybe social studies is that opportunity for that. And I'm not saying that that shouldn't be part of curriculum, but when we're having DEIB included in curriculum, it's problematic. Again, it is the parent's responsibility to teach those principles at home, and we should not abdicate that responsibility to the school. When you do that, you run the risk of having schools indoctrinating children like is happening in my home country of Cuba. If you don't know what that gets you, turn the TV on and see what's happening in the streets of Cuba. I'm a minority, and for those of you who are standing to speak for minorities, please understand you don't speak for all of us. Second of all, Dr. Vanderjagt and the school, I thought, did a good job explaining what DIB was not during the June 16 meeting. So thank you for that. My only point, because we talked about the subject already, is the following. As long as you engage Mr. Newman as your consultant, someone who calls Colin Kaepernick a hero, someone who actually goes on Twitter and endorses Kendi and D'Angelo, who are proponents of CRT, and someone who openly endorses critical race theory, it is going to be very difficult for us as parents to accept that that's not the direction in which the district is going. So I think there is an opportunity for us to actually engage in discussions about diversity and inclusion. Maybe you chose the wrong messenger for that. I don't think Mr. Newman is going to bring unity to this district, to this community. And last, and this message is for the board, I know I only have 13 minutes. Listen, we've been asking you to hear your opinion. I'm not going to say that everything that this board has done is wrong. You've done a lot of good for this community. I want to thank in particular Mrs. Hooper and Mr. Tallow, who's not here, for responding to our emails. The two of you are one of the few members of the board, at least in my opinion, the only two that have responded to our communications. It is important that we hear from you. Again, you're elected representatives. We don't know where you stand. And despite of all the good work that you've done as a board, if you don't take a stand, if you don't let us know where you stand, your legacy is not what you say, it's what you don't say. Thank you for your time.
Opportunity to speak to you tonight, and as others have said, I do appreciate your service and the time that you take and these difficult decisions that you have to make that affect our community. My name is Perrin. I live on Chapel Drive, and I've lived in Hudsonville for about 30 years. And I just want to make one illustration that happened tonight. And when you were, sir, addressing the crowd and you said, please don't applaud. Please don't be distracting. I appreciate that you did that because you said, I don't want to rally. And you have a room full of people and we all have different opinions. And we all have different beliefs. And I'm a conservative and I hold that dearly, but I don't expect everybody to abide by my beliefs in their daily lives or in the school institution. If I have an opportunity to share it or they welcome it, I will give it. But what creates a rally is when everybody is speaking out of turn, and everybody wants their voice to be heard, and everybody wants their individuality to be celebrated. But the school isn't for that. The school is to teach academics. The school is to teach math and science and history and language and writing and art and, hey, let's get back to home ec. And let's teach people how to sew something or make a nice meal that is a gift to people. Or let's teach our boys how to use their hands and not focus so much on what they look like or what they're wearing or how they're feeling in this tumultuous time of their growing up. Let's not expect them to make decisions for their future when they're still just being raised as kids. Let's just celebrate them. The school isn't the place to highlight beliefs. It's not the place to teach values. That should be done in the home. The school is the place to teach. If we're all expressing ourselves, there's no order. And we need order in the classroom. And let's just focus on that rather than the uniqueness and individuality of everybody. What they do outside of school is their business. I think that the real problem with the critical race theory is it demands full attention. It demands all its rules are followed. Let's give some respect to our community and what works in this community. There's plenty of liberal communities that are the testing ground for let it all go. And the proof is in their culture and in their communities and in their crime rate. Let's be a test for the world to see how Hudsonville can do it with respect and solving these problems with our parents and our classmates. And nobody should be called a name. Nobody should be put down in school for whatever they believe. Deal with each of those kids separately. We don't need to put a curriculum in place to teach kids that. I think that you guys are going to do the right thing, but I just want to remind you that we want order, you want order. And this is how it happens, by sticking with the subject, sticking with what's being taught, and not the emotions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Bass, and I live in Hudsonville Drive in Hudsonville. I've been a member of the community for the last 30 years. I have 4 kids that live right here. I have multiracial grandkids.
about DEIB. And it's like, look, we really don't want it here. And why don't we want it here? It's basically because out of my 30-some years here, I know if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And when we have this, we've got to take and pull it in, because in our area here, time here, we have diversity in our community right now. That's why when I go to Hudsonville School and see all these other kids, I can tell my kids apart from theirs. We're all different. When my kids were in sports, I used to talk to people out in the hallway. And when we were in the hallway, I didn't agree with hardly any of them on everything. We had some main things that were there. So we learn how to get along. We learn how to teach. We do have inclusivity. But when it gets martyred, it has to be shoved down people's throats. That's when it gets to be incorrect and wrong. And anything that's done by the state that's paying us money to introduce something like this in a community that has strong values, it's wrong. Why is it that we can get teachers so easy? I hear tonight in the board we're bringing new teachers on board. Why is that? Because it's a strong community. What do they like about this community? They like about this community the fact that we have parents here that care. And when you have parents that care, that means when they go into the classroom, they show teachers respect. They're not tearing it up. They're not beating up the school. Our schools have looked good every time I've gone to the schools. They're well kept. And why? And yeah, we have good maintenance staff, but the kids aren't beating the tar out of it. And the reason for that is the values that we teach them at home. I don't want to see our values get changed because we're trying to take and implement something that comes from up above, all because of the almighty dollar. Because I got to tell you something, give it back. Give Newman the money, pay him, and then be done with it. Don't implement it in our classes. Don't do it. It's wrong. We are already diverse. We are already including this diversity here and teaching them to respect each other, whether they're fat, thin, different faith, whatever it happens to be. We are already doing it, and trying to change it is wrong.
Back in the corner here, yes.
I am from Plainfield Township, and I have 4 grandsons, 2 of which go here. And I was so happy when my daughter moved here because my husband graduated from this school right here in 1970. That was great because the day he graduated, they handed him a Bible. I'd like to know why we can't do that now. If he was alive and passed away 4 years ago, he would be mortified to know what my grandkids are going to be taught this next year. And I would like to ask for a copy of the curriculum for the coming year, because each one of us has a right to have that curriculum to look at and comb through. And I have, my grandson, I have one on suicide watch because, for one thing, they couldn't see their friends last year because if one person got COVID, they were quarantined for 2 weeks, and they were out of school more than they were in school. Okay, he's so depressed. The second, his brother has high anxiety, and he was threatened with suspension because he would not pull up his mask. Now, do you think those kids are going to be in a state to learn this coming year? I don't. And right now, I'm sorry that they go to this school district. I wish to the Lord, it used to be like a Christian school. You know, I got to see a program at a church for a couple of years, their Christmas program. It's called Christmas, not Xmas, not winter break. We need to put God back in the school system because, you know, this is a spiritual battle. Do you realize that? And what you're going to teach is actually abusing our kids. It's child abuse. Do you guys want to be child abusers? I mean, I don't want to be, but I am really sorry my grandkids go here, and I pray to God. I wish my daughter could homeschool, but she's a single mom, so in the summers they're home pretty much by themselves. They're not looking forward to this next school year. And I would like, you know, it breaks my heart too. I'm a grandparent. I have 2 other grandsons. We need good men in this country. We need men to teach the values, because what's taken this country down too is fatherless homes. And it breaks my heart that my family has one of those. And my grandkids count. They're young, and they're looking to you adults to teach the right things, and I don't think it's going on anymore. My husband would be mortified if he was alive today, to know what his grandkids are going to be learning from you. You are accountable to God. One day you will be. I'm a Christian, and some of you probably are too. This is a Christian community, but what I see coming is nothing to do with Christianity. It's to do with evil. Satan is in this battle, and he's going to win. If these school boards teach this stuff to our kids, what's the next generation going to be? You guys will be affected too. But you're going to be held accountable by God, either here or there. And I appreciate you giving me time to speak. I'm sorry I'm so upset, but my grandson, I'm really concerned about him. I hope you can understand. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I'm Sandy Whaley. I live in Jamestown Township. I'm completely unprepared to speak tonight. So I am new to the system, although I am an alumni of Hudsonville. So my husband and I, by will of our oldest child, chose to transfer our kids to Hudsonville, and it's been a great experience. I have a multi-racial family. My family represents 3 different racial groups, and 2 of my children now have graduated from Hudsonville and had great experiences here. And my youngest is registered and ready to go for her freshman year. She is of an ethnic race, if I'm saying that right, sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm speaking for her. I know she would not want to be singled out in any way. I definitely think there's benefit academically in educational system just to stick with the subjects, educate the children well. You know, in the times when the kids can be social at their lunchtime or sports, I think children do really, really well with including each other. I mean, there's always exceptions to that rule. All of us have gone through the system in some shape or form. But I think Hudsonville's done a great job of making sure that anti-bullying and being mindful of each individual student. I'd love to see that continue. I'd love to see my daughter not be singled out for being of a maybe minority race in this community. I appreciate and respect everyone's thoughts wherever they come from. I believe in the school system, academics are first. Moral views, religious beliefs should be taught in home. I think there's many, it sounds like everyone who spoke tonight is a very caring parent who would do their very best with their convictions to educate their children. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Jump in here for a moment. Can you hear me okay if I speak loudly? We really want to hear everyone. We want to hear all points of view here. And I believe the board has been listening, and I don't want to shorten this meeting. It's been 2 hours. I'm a patient man. I can stay longer. But I would suggest if there are other points of view or other topics that you want to mention that have not been mentioned, those probably ought to be given priority. There's nothing wrong with being repetitious. We won't necessarily need more emphasis by having more repetition. I'm still willing to listen. I just want to make sure we honor your time and our time as well. Are there other than feel passionate they'd like to speak this evening?
Time and attention. Quick show of hands. Who of you thinks it's okay to discriminate against our kids because of the color of their skin? Nobody? No? What if it's good discrimination? Anybody? about making absolute judgments about kids based solely on the color of their skin? Anybody okay with that? What about teaching kids that the color of their skin is the most defining element about them? Is okay with that? I understand. I would hope you wouldn't. Those all sound horrible, and we would never put that in our curriculum, right? Because there's a defined process to review curriculum before you roll and vote on that stuff. It was much simpler to hire a consultant named Julie Newman to train our administration, and in the very near future, our teachers, on the how and why to do all those things. His terminology is not as stark as mine, and it's always preceded by his why, but that is the message and the goal in our DIB initiative. You can tell by the inclusion of the word equity. Equity is equal outcomes based on race. The only way to ensure equal outcomes based on race is to discriminate based on race until you achieve your desired outcomes, period. Julian and maybe others would tell you that all the reasons why that's a good thing. But anybody defending equity programs is discriminatory and racist. By definition, we see that in universities. They've embraced this, and they have segregated dormitories, they have segregated graduations, they have segregated classes. Hudsonville is not a racist community. If there are kids in our schools that do or say racist things, we address them. If there are staff or teachers, same thing, we address them. Julie Newman has proven to be a racist in his personal and his professional life. Yet we retain him. Dr. Vanderjack said he could not speak for his posts, his social media posts. It's time to either vigorously defend Julie Newman or to fire him, cut ties with him. It's got to be one of the others. This district's FAQs on the DEIB initiative state that critical race has absolutely nothing to do with our DEIB initiative principles. But Julie Newman's training is based on the precepts of critical race theory as the foundation, and he clearly self-identifies with CRT. So as hard as our new FAQ sheet tries to do, you will never distance our DEIB from CRT unless you distance ourselves from Julian. It's really that simple. And you either embrace it and defend it, or fire him and cut ties and move forward with something constructive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Heather Tulsma. I was not planning on coming up here and talking, but now as a former employee, I feel like I need to get up and I need to stand up and let the board know what's going on. I know I've sat down with a couple of you and talked with a couple of you on the phone in regards to some of the situations I have seen, not only in the building I worked at, but also with my own children. In one of the buildings that the building that I worked in, for the month of February, they had a curriculum put together by, I'm not sure who, that was to be sent out and posted with a lesson each day. Fine, I had no problem with that, along with a poster honoring some of those African Americans with like Martin Luther King Jr. and some of those other big ones. Once it started to went political and talked about the Obamas, then I started to have trouble. Sorry, I was not prepared to do this at all. I also saw the beginning of June, being Gay Pride Month, teachers walking around with the rainbow flags on. And as Mr. Davis taught when we had our conversation, he goes, were they there for the celebrating Noah's Ark? Unfortunately, no. I have heard teachers saying in a classroom that George Washington was racist because he had slaves. And again, not okay. This is why I chose to put my neck out there and be done with it. I found a different job, And I've also just pulled my son from the district as well. I think it's time that we start addressing this stuff. We need to keep it neutral, and we need to get all the rest of this out of there. Also, and as a side note, it was brought to my attention that one of the schools, well, first of all, I know it was in the 6th grade classroom at Baldwin Street. One of the teachers was reading the book called It Isn't Racism to the kids. Some parents came and talked to them and said, okay, what can we do to handle this situation? The result was, or the suggestion was, that the teacher would nod to the student and they would be asked to leave and go sit and help. Another example, my own daughter, who struggles with anxiety, had a mask that she kept pulling down. She kept getting in trouble for it. So I said, finally, you know what, honey, I'll get you an exemption. She didn't want to do that because she didn't want to stand up. So I said, well, we can go get a mesh mask. She was pulled out of the classroom, talked to, she respected authority, and she put on a regular mask. When I talked to them, when I asked, what can we do to take care of this? Like, how can we adjust? This is obviously affecting her mental health. There was no suggestion made. This is not okay, and I will fight for every single one of these kids. Thank you.
All right, could we take maybe 3 more comments, and then the board does need to go into executive session this evening. It's getting a little late, so if we could take just 3 more, I've got one here, and one in the back. I saw, was there a gentleman in the back who had his hand up? Yeah, if you want to wait for the lady up here first.
Oh, I thought you said the guy in the back. Sorry, I apologize.
This is my first time public speaking in person, not on Zoom. And I never have imagined that me speaking publicly would be not in my native language, but in English. I am Helena Clavan. I live in Hudsonville since 2011, and I'm a legal immigrant and I'm a refugee from Russia. Refugee based on religious persecutions in a communist country of Russia. Today, I'm thankful I'm here in a great and free country of the United States of America, but I'm worried this is not going to be the case if our schools continue to teach CRT and DIB, and it will be taught in public schools. Because CRT stems from BLM, and BLM founder Patrice Cullors came out and admitted she was a trained Marxist. Marxism is foundation for socialism, communism. As someone who fled a former communist country, let me tell you, I am terrified of this. Marxists divide people into groups, the oppressors and the oppressed. In former Soviet Union, when the communists took over, the oppressors were the aristocracy and the oppressed were the common folk. Right now, here in America, Marxists divide country but white and black. Pastor Julian Newman teaches and uses Bible to tell me that I have white privilege. I had no privilege when I grew up in Russia. I was persecuted for being a believer, being a Christian. I'm the first one in my family to graduate from a university after the fall of Soviet Union because Christians were not allowed to go to university because we did not belong to Communist Party. Also, I listened to Julian Newman on his podcast, and he teaches that, and he compares the degrees of racism to degrees of murder. I don't know how is it okay with anybody. I do not accept this. I would like Hudsonville not to teach that. And I'm hopeful that school board will listen to my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You speak well in English.
you.
If you're running short on time, just take someone else. Take somebody else been trying to get up all night. You can take her if you'd like.
From Hudsonville. It has been said that you, the board, and Dr. Vanderjack might feel as though you are stuck between two camps of equal size. I would like you to take a look at this crowd and take a look at these signs and see that the crowds are not of equal size. This community is already diverse. This community is filled with Christians that love. We do not need Julian Newman, and we do not need DEIB. All means all. Liberals versus conservatives, Dems versus Republicans, white versus any color in the rainbow. We want all. We want neutral, and we want unity. When we, the yellow shirts, say all is all, we welcome other opinions for conversation, but not to have it shoved down our throats or our kids' throats. When you allow controversy into your school, you open yourselves up for problems. BLM, DEIB, thoughts on abortion, thoughts on politics should not be in the classroom. Notice I said thoughts, not education. I understand it might be a part of education. This community wants to support HPS and public schools, but only if HPS, public schools, can support and unify the community. I had a statement from another person that I was asked to read, but out of concern for time, and it is in reference to CRT and DEIB, I will just read the conclusion. All children deserve to feel safe and comfortable in their school setting. Parents and taxpayers deserve answers. You work for us, and you answer to us, the parents and the taxpayers. Hear us loud and clear. We will not stand for implementation of ideologies that further divide our community. We are many, and we will not let up or back down. That comes from a 1992 graduate and Hudsonville resident, Ryan Phillips. Thank you for your service, and I hope that we can truly thank you for your service a year from now with smiles on our face.
Showed they were professional, educational, descriptive of what this consulting firm does. His analogy regarding our ability to have no concerns regarding clean water, to me, was accurate, very relevant and factual. It left me trying to discern where the anger and negativity was coming from. I thought about Rockford residents, I was a graduate there, and how serious their PFAS water issues are. Do we find those concerns stupid? Can we not empathize with them while being glad that those concerns aren't ours? Does learning about their struggles somehow make us feel bad about their experiences? Should we have that same empathy towards Flint residents? Isn't educating ourselves and our children to understand the history and hardships of others important? There seems to be this mentality that educating about inequities will cause our children to feel bad about being white and would actually cause further racial divides. I don't understand this process. Learning about the difficulties of others and acknowledging them doesn't mean we are to feel bad being white. It means there's so much more going on in the world exactly what is going on here. It means that we need to step back and try and see things through their eyes. And most importantly, it means that we need to have a better understanding and empathy towards those who aren't living with the same experiences we are. I realize there was a lot of pushback and concern regarding Julian Newman, but I believe he is exactly who we need and exactly this time. And I encourage the board to stay this course and continue utilizing his knowledge and experience. Our district could really benefit from his knowledge. The acronym DEIB is also bringing about a lot of attention and anger in our district and around the country. I'm not sure exactly why this is either. This is a community known for our Christian values, taking care of our neighbors, showing compassion for and filling the needs of others when they arise. I believe this to be true, so why are so many people fighting against what we already stand for? Our district is one of the larger ones in the state and is comprised of students from all walks of life. The district is attempting to adapt to these many types of students by learning more about how to better relate to and interact with them. Helping school staff reach students with disabilities, different backgrounds or home lives, sexual orientations, income levels, and emotional and mental issues is incredibly important. Our teachers are often the first to set something is off with a student. They are often the first ones to reach out and check in with them and see what's going on. They're often the first ones to recognize there is a serious problem at home, whether it be a lack of food or sometimes abuse. Their ability to reach students from every walk of life is an important aspect for each and every student. Isn't it our job as community members to support these efforts? Isn't every single child in our district worth it? I believe they are. They deserve to be supported in the best way possible. Should one of our district's most important jobs be to see all of our students equal? Should their goal be to make sure every child feels safe in our schools? I believe it is. Thank you for your time. Listen to me.
Good evening, Leah Matthewson, Rolling Hills neighborhood in Hudsonville, Michigan. So I'm actually speaking on behalf of Heather Leo in Jamestown Township. So she wanted to give a few examples for you of what has happened to her own children. So my daughter and I together emailed multiple times to Dr. Vanderjack about a teacher that was severely pushing his opinions on the kids. My daughter has had enough, so we sent the email as well as some photos of what was on the board daily. My child witnessed the teacher's opinions, pressure to get the vaccine shot, and that he also attended a BLM event. She didn't want to know this information. She wanted to know what her test grades were. She and other students felt extremely uncomfortable in class. Unfortunately, she got no results, and just a brush off from Mr. Beal, who actually never responded to her via email. She had to approach him at the DEIB parent meeting and was told this teacher in question was actually the most conservative. Her other child was called racist every day by a student behind her, just because she has different opinions and is white. Mind you, this student is also white. My child had never spoken with them or initiated any negative contact. They gave her grief daily and even tried sticking things on her back. Again, when she emailed Mr. Beal, he wasn't happy, but nothing was said to the student. So why bother coming to any of you when it is boldly apparent that our students' voices don't matter to those in charge? I'm also going to add my own comments. I think this board and Dr. Vanderjack felt the need to do something in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd. I don't fault you for that. I fault you for doing this in haste, for not involving the entire community on this decision. I fault you for misleading us initially by saying it was the parent survey that justified the DEIB initiative. I fault you for hiring Julian Newman, who teaches CRT concepts, and while you tell us you are re-evaluating him, the school pays him $5,000 on July 12th. And so that's not a re-evaluation, sir. That's a continuation. Also, I fault you for refusing to decline our request to understand what Newman is teaching administration and what positive impact that will have on our students. You've never answered those two questions. What is being taught? You declined us. And then how does Julian positively impact all students? Again, you have never answered that. And lastly, I fault you for your pitiful actions regarding these bully incidents and others. Even you shared at the DEIB parent meeting a student that had a racial slur thrown at them on a daily, consistent basis. Where was the action, sir? You don't need Julian or DEIB to take action. Do better.
Who care to listen, will the others be quiet, please? If you're leaving, please be quiet. This is still a school board meeting. Please be quiet. You want us to hear you. You want us to hear you, but you need to respect us. That's all I'm asking. And we've tried to do that. We're going into the closed session, so I'm going to entertain a motion from the board that we go into closed session at this time. I had some really nice words to say, but I'm not going to say it. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Don and Steve. Those in favor? Yes, yes. We are in closed session. Here, I will ask the board if there is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Don. Supported by Steve. Oh, sure. He suggests we do round table before we, just in case. How about down here? You folks want to say anything nice about us?
I'm good.
All right. Thanks. Barb?
I am good.
Good. And so am I.
So did ask. I mean,
That's okay. That's okay. He's trying to keep me under control here. All right. We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Those in favor say yes. Yes. And opposed, no. It's carried. We're adjourned. Thank you for your time.